But now let us start with a show. The National Youth Orchestra of Iraq, led by musical director Paul McAlinden, is going to play in Bonn, Germany, on the 1st of October in the context of the prestigious Beethoven Fest. In our last shows, we heard from the Scottish conductor himself, from tutors who are supporting the orchestra by teaching different musical instruments, and even from my students at Rhein Campus who helped promote the project in the social media such as Facebook and YouTube. Now, today in our first category, Absolutely Unexpected, I talked to Karl Keppler, who created a foundation for the support for the orchestra. Now, without this support, the Iraqi musicians would not be able to pay for their travel to Europe. But what are his motivations behind this project? Karl is going to talk about the intercultural hurdles they had to deal with and why it is worth fighting for this particular project.
The musicians can't understand each other. Some are from Kurdistan, others speak Arab language, and many did not learn English because that was forbidden under Saddam Hussein. And so we needed translators that could speak English, Kurdish and Arab. And this for me, first of all, was this astonishing experience that the orchestra communicated with the help of translators.
Now, language is one thing, but do these people even talk to each other in their regular lives?
The musicians from Baghdad and the regions there, they left on a Tuesday morning by a bus, and the Kurdish people stayed behind, and we all met in our hotel lobby. The whole place was in tears. So what you could observe was that an emotional understanding had developed among these young people. Though they didn't speak each other's languages, over the music they had found an understanding. And I first thought that would be very romantic to say this, but observing it with my own eyes and sharing their feelings, I thought, well, whatever obstacles there are, you have to fight for this project, and you have to help turning it into a lasting one.
What do you think people will get out of it? Let's first start with the Iraqis.
Well, first of all, it's the advancements in their private music. They become better musicians, and they are eager musicians. And so we help them to live up to standards they are trying to reach. That is first of all. In the second place, they are aware that this orchestra, in a way, is unique. The problems that arise are cultural problems, and we have to understand their different cultures. And there are, under the surface, certainly Kurdish and Arab tensions. But we have to find solutions incorporating together, and neither part should have the idea this is dominated by the Arabs, this is dominated by the Kurdish. Okay. And it will also be a cultural shock for them to come to Bonn. So they will need close support here, and they have to be open that they experience music together and find a common ground on which they can work.
Is there an interesting learning curve also for the Europeans when we go over to Iraq?
Well, first of all, I think the music teachers have never had such enthusiastic students. They are still bragging about that. They have never had so much success with their music lessons as they had. Then also, I and the others, we had prejudices about the situation in Iraq. And I learned that the Kurdish part, well, is strictly observed by military and police, but it's peaceful. And what I was really surprised is the free way women can live there. We saw no burqas, nothing. And we have 12 girls playing in the orchestra.
So clearly the whole mission seems to be a win-win situation for everybody involved. In spite of the cultural and religious barriers between the Kurdish and Arabic musicians, everyone enjoys the opportunity to make cross-cultural and cross-religious friendships through the joint musical experience. In our next category, Absolutely Unexpected Part 2, I want to come back to the interview with Karl Keppler. In this part, he gives us insights into the specific work on the project. So, what is his foundation doing for the orchestra? How are they involved in organizing the project? And of course, Karl Walter is also going to tell us about the status quo of the project, where they are at the moment, what they need, and what is going to happen in the future.
Well, the project we do in Germany is to help to organize this youth orchestra in Iraq. We are not only contributing to it with the help of money, but we are actually organizing it from here, and we are helping to establish an organization for this orchestra in Iraq.
If people out there are listening to this podcast, is there anything they can do right now?
Well, it sounds very trivial, but we need money. The project for the first 2 years was supported by the British Council, and they paid a lot. And then in the last stage of the rehearsals, there was also money from the Kurdish government. But when my group started, we were back at zero, because the British Council only does initial financing and they have no financial means anymore.
What are the next steps on this road?
Well, first of all, our biggest achievement was that the Beethoven Fest accepted this orchestra for the youth campus in 2011. Except for one person, none of them has ever been outside Iraq. And then to go to Beethoven's birth town and to play in a high-class European musical festival is an incredible undertaking for them. So first of all, our big achievement was that Frau Schmiel, the musical director of the Beethoven Fest, trusted Paul and us that we could make this project come true. It is taking an enormous risk for this festival, but we got all the support, and then our task is now that the orchestra can rehearse and play in Iraq. I want it to be founded in Iraq. I don't want to have an international orchestra traveling for this message through the world. I want this orchestra to be a reality in Iraq, and actually our main goal is the day when we can play in Baghdad and not only in Erbil or Suleimania.
To be honest, from the start, I've been fascinated by the people who are working on this project. I'm convinced that they're going to achieve great things because they are so clear about their aims. They know what they want, and they're equally clear about what they don't want. They take risks because they know that the outcome is worth it, and they have a clear vision of where they want to be with their project in the future. Please forgive me for playing these last 30 seconds again, because I think this level of focus can be an inspiration for people who want to get non-profit projects off the ground.
It is taking an enormous risk for this festival, but we got all the support, and then our task is now that the orchestra can rehearse and play in Iraq. I want it to be founded in Iraq. I don't want to have an international orchestra traveling for this message through the world. I want this orchestra to be a reality in Iraq, and actually our main goal is the day when we can play in Baghdad and not only in Erbil or Suleimania.
Karl Walter and Paul, I assure you the team of Absolutely Intercultural wish you and the whole orchestra the best for the project. And we hope you will raise enough money to get the Iraqi musicians over to Europe. The whole group of the Iraqis will have to leave their comfort zones when they leave their home country and travel to Europe for the first time in their lives.